This is Moshe coming to you from Israel and the Galilee. No title today because I had a terrible time getting a title up in YouTube, and it kept giving me all this deleting of the live stream, and I had to keep going back. So I just finally let the generic title that it has sink in and just end it like that. So probably not a lot of people coming in today. We're going to cover a lot about the Iran war. The second aircraft carrier is here. It's apparently in the Red Sea with the Harry Truman doing some kind of exercises. More cargo planes are coming to Qatar and Saudi Arabia too. Saudi Arabia is in on this, and there was 6 American refueling tankers by the Gibraltar Straits. That's where the Atlantic Ocean flows into the Mediterranean. And they were there to meet bombers coming into the region and refuel them. And there was also one German refueling plane there. So the takeaway is pretty obvious that Germany's going to be in the fight against Iran. The planes are coming in heavy to Qatar. Some people think in the last days, maybe 10, 15 days, that 200 to 300 cargo planes came to Qatar. Qatar is about 119 miles by air from the Iranian border. Tehran is deeper into Iran, so it's a greater distance, but that's how close they are. So right now, it does not appear that the Carl Vinson aircraft carrier is by the Persian Gulf, which I thought it would be. It may go there shortly, but it's not there now. For it to go there would be, I don't know, 3, 4 days. Maybe it could get there in 2 to 3. I don't know. Maybe that. Not in hours. It'd be a big schlep, you know. So maybe they're going to try to bomb the daylights out of the Houthis. And American officials said yesterday that they've only had limited success with the Houthis, with the bombing. And I understand they've already used 30,000-pound Moab bombs on some of their hidden or underground or in mountain sites where they're keeping weapons, predominantly missiles. Okay, and apparently they're still able to fire missiles. So this is going to be a big effort on the part of America to knock out these Houthi, the Houthi ability to launch missiles and drones at ships in Israel and Saudi Arabia is a very big concern, because it looks like Saudis going into the war, but they're not talking like they are, but their actions are. They're in the war. Okay. And then I'm going to show you why the daughter of Babylon passages in Jeremiah 50 and 51 could not, and I say again, absolutely 100% could not be applied to the old Babylon with Nebuchadnezzar and the one that Cyrus took out. We're going to go through that because I see it popping up again, and I'm going to show you the absurdity of it. It's sheer absurd to think that, but I imagine some of the churchianity people will start promoting that again. It's an old theme. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. But I'm going to show you how you could debunk it, okay? And remember, you got to, if you're going to start relying on history, some church publishing house may have published some stupid, twisted history about this, but it's completely not true, okay? And there's a number of good history sources on the internet that explain what really happened, which I'll take you through, okay? So there's a lot of war news, a lot of sanction news and stuff like that we're going to go through. All right, what I'm going to do now is go into the live stream and make sure we got one. and then get my posts up, make sure people are coming in. Yeah, I mean, I was trying to get these live streams up and they didn't come up. I mean, there's a couple of them here. I don't know. I'll delete them later. So I hit the, there we go. Live streams up. We're good. And I'm going to put a few fast posts up and then some praise and we'll get going. I also want to talk to you about India today. I had a long talk with a believer in India yesterday, and he was explaining to me what's really going on with persecution of Christians and persecutions of Muslims and what Modi is doing over there, and it's pretty scary. Let me get my posts in. I encourage you to toss everybody that posts obnoxious posts up there on the chat. Give them a toss freely. They're bots, they're S-bots. They're just trying to disguise it and harass us. Okay, I'm going to do some praise and we'll get going. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 I think I got 7. One more just in case. There is no God like Jehovah. There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. Prayers for PC, Papa Charlie PC. PC had a procedure the other day and the results were, well, it reduced blood pressure and some other things. PC is still in pain, so please pray for PC to get better, to get healed, and the pain and the inflammation goes away. And PC has a procedure coming up later in the month, and pray that there would be healing so the procedure's not needed, but if it is, it would come out really good outcome with no side effects or pain for PC, Papa Charlie. Okay, that's one of our dedicated spiritual warriors. Please pray for me with my teeth and my gums. What happened is the tooth where the broken crown is, we prayed for that. You all did, and I did. And it stopped bothering me. Then further back, in the back of the lower left part of the jaw, one of the other teeth started acting up. I don't understand what happened. There's no heat, no inflammation, no fever. It's acting up from, I guess, kinetic, like chewing on it, or cold or hot. So I've been praying, and please pray for that other tooth. And I feel it in the jaw over there too, that it goes away. Not sure what the heck is going on with this. It came up all of a sudden. I was canceling spiritual warfare, but I doubt that's what it is. A causeless curse shall not land. So it doesn't work. They think it does, but it doesn't. So please pray for my lower rear jaw on the left side to not have any more symptoms of pain from chewing or hot or cold or anything. Appreciate you doing that. Bueller, I fixed the barricade to stop her from getting out. She was in there this morning with me, and everything was fine, and then she got out again. She came back rather quickly in one piece, so I refortified it. And I moved more pieces of things over there, and I think I saw how she got out because something moved, and I rigged it up again. So pray I got it to stop her, and if I don't, that the Lord would show me what else to do. Next week, a guy's going to come over here and I think do something like serious construction on that to stop her. I don't know exactly what we'll do yet, but we'll have to stop her. It's a little bit stupid with her. She wants to be an outside dog, and she's not. So pray that she doesn't get out anymore. I appreciate it. The other dog doesn't get out. She doesn't jump or anything like that. If I leave the door open by mistake, she'll go take a walk and then come home later. But all right. Trump's tariffs on Chinese goods are already affecting manufacturing plants in China. There are reports that Chinese manufacturing workers have received notices of being placed on forced leave. That's laid off, I guess we would say. It was also reported that there were many cancellations of orders for goods destined to the US because the people that sell the goods in the US don't want to buy them because the price is going to be very high. Trump's at 145% tariffs with China. So $100 item would be like, I don't know, $245. So they're canceling orders. There have also been reports of protests by Chinese manufacturing workers who realize they're going to lose their jobs. The U.S. Department of Government Efficiency reveals data on the unemployment claims since 2020. This is hilarious. 24,500 people over the age of 115. They seem to think that the oldest person living in America that's really living is 114. So at 24,500 people filed for unemployment that were 115 years old. This totals $59 million. I don't know what that is, a month, a year, or what, I don't know. They're saying people aged 28,000 people aged 1 to 5 years old filed applications for unemployment benefits for a total of 254 million. 9,700 people with a future birth date filed unemployment claims for a combined of 69 million. So they were saying they're going to be born like in the summer this year, like in July or something like that. Remember, I've told you repeatedly that the people that are in government and the people that run the big corporations and run the countries are complete idiots, Satan bots. What's this all? I'm telling you, they're bureaucrats. They know how to dress. They know how to give a dinner party. They know how to act and talk and sit at a board meeting like they know what they're talking about, and they don't. They're just idiots. And now you can see what idiots they are. Apparently, there was a nest in America of probably tens of thousands of people that have been filing these fraudulent claims with unemployment and Social Security and probably making a good amount of money off it. Some of them are probably, bringing down 50, 100, 200,000 a month. It would require some machinations. I mean, you need, well, if you're going to get a check from them, a paper check, you could probably go to a check cashing place with phony ID and cash it. They might be cashing these things in other countries, I'm not sure. I don't really know how they're doing it. How do you, if you're running, 38 aliases for unemployment insurance, how do you, get 38 IDs for check cashing? I guess they can. Or maybe the check cashing places are in on it and get, 25, 35% for doing it. I don't know. I don't know how they do it. I'm at a loss. Okay. The Trump administration is blocking aid to Lebanon, the real government of Lebanon, not Hezbollah, from Qatar and Saudi Arabia until the Lebanese government disbands and disarms the Hezbollah. Now, they're saying not just south of the Litani River. They want Hezbollah completely dismantled, arms taken away. Apparently, they could stay in the country. They want them as if they never existed. The new government and the way things are in Lebanon, where the Hezbollah holds seats in the government and the Congress and all that, and the army are not, real crackerjack army, let's say. They haven't really fought a war in decades. So there was a 2006 war with Israel. So the Lebanese army has not, the guys in the army now haven't been fighting in 20 years. So they're an inexperienced army. They have no combat experience. There might be a few officers left over from 2006, like majors and colonels and this type of thing, that can remember, but the rules of warfare in 2006 were entirely different. There weren't stealth jets, there weren't the use of drones, missiles were entirely different, everything was different. So I don't think it's going to come to pass. I'm rather certain we'll have a war with Lebanon, including the Lebanese government per se. I'm quite sure that will come to pass very soon. 5 C-5 planes came to Qatar. Those are huge planes. And they're still bringing them, now they're bringing them to Saudi Arabia, cargo planes, C-17, C-5. Are they missile defense systems only? Maybe. Are they also weapons, offensive? Maybe. We don't know. It's like the people that listen to the EAMs, emergency action messages, and they sit there, wow, listen to this message, wow, they don't know what the heck's going on. And these messages go on all the time, and they count the messages, and they say, oh, there's been 11 emergency action messages last night. Things must be heating up. How do they know? How do they know? Nuclear bombers flying around America. So what? They're running exercises. Now, some of the stuff they come up with useful, like they're running anti-submarine warfare, trying to find the positions of submarines off the Atlantic, and they're also doing similar things in the Gulf of Mexico. So they're worried about Iran or China or Russia or North Korea. North Korea said they're going to be sending thousands of missiles to Russia. Now, this is going to get Trump quite irritated, because then it means Ukraine is needing more weapons. NATO is going to be irritated and agitated over this too. So North Korea is building up more enemies steadily. The tomorrow, peace talks with Iran have reached the point of being stupid. America is insisting that their guy is going to be there. I think it might be Witkoff. And the Iranians are insisting that the Americans meet. It's in Oman, the Kingdom of Oman, by the Sea of Oman, just outside the Persian Gulf. And the Iranians are insisting that what's going to happen is Iran will be in one room, America will be in another room, and they'll use personnel from the government of Oman to carry the messages back and forth from room to room. Now, I'm not so sure the Americans are going to tolerate that. It's hardly direct negotiations. Okay, and America keeps saying they're having direct negotiations. Now, Witkoff may show up and say, you will meet with me face to face, or we're going to destroy your facilities for you. We're not going to negotiate anymore. And then the foreign minister will say, I'm not authorized by Khomeini to do this. I'm sorry. And they say, I'm sorry too. See you around the campus, and leaves. That might be all that happens. Okay. Iran will then say, you're threatening us, and we're not going to negotiate under duress. The latest stunt that Iran pulled, which is just like them, is that the situation is too complicated to just do a negotiation in one shot. So what we're going to do is we'll, on Saturday, negotiate further negotiations only. So they're saying the only thing we'll negotiate Saturday is who, what, where, when, why, how. We'll conduct future negotiations, which will need 60 days to complete. Of course, they'll extend it at least another 30 or 60 days. So do I think Trump's going to go for that? Nah. No. No. He's not. So you can see that there's a lot of potential for nothing to come of this ceasefire. I give it, 98% chance of nothing. Trump's not going to give them 2 months because they're going to, the story is, oh, they'll have bombs by then. They're not really going for nuclear bombs. You know my position on that. What they are going for is more radar and more sophisticated over-the-horizon radar and more anti-aircraft missiles to deter the bombing and then get ready to hit them with a preemptive strike in Diego Garcia as well. Okay? That's what Iran is trying to do. They certainly have plenty of weapons. They're trying to probably improve them. Get more long-range weapons with accuracy. Possibly convert more ships to drone carriers, so they probably have some in process, complete them, and missile carriers. And there also could be hoping Russia has some sort of a ceasefire with Ukraine by then and can help them for real. I'm not so sure Trump will go for something stupid like this. If they wanted to buy 60 days, Trump would say, well, we have to deactivate the nuclear facilities first. They have to stop immediately. Either you stop them with our physical observance or we're going to blow them up. Trump's not going to let them continue. The other 2 aircraft carriers coming over here, I think they're the Abraham Lincoln and the Eisenhower, if I'm going to remember correctly. And I don't think they'll be here till the very end of the month. Judging how much time it took for the Carl Vinson, I'd say very late in the month. So Trump might do something to let them have a little time, but I don't think so. I don't think he really needs them, but if he didn't really need them, why is he bringing them over here? You got basically 3 adversaries that are going to emerge and fire at American allies, American bases in the Middle East, and that is Iran, Iraq, and Yemen. I don't think any serious attacks can come out of Syria. The HTS is certainly not going to do it. I don't think. Turkey, I don't think will do it. The American bases are there. There's 1 or 2 British bases there. I don't see. I think that it's likely to just go hot any day now. No, I don't know what equipment Trump is bringing in. They probably brought in about, I'll take a guess, 250 or so cargo planes to the Middle East. Okay, heavy amount to Qatar, heavy. Now Saudi Arabia is getting a good amount, and Diego Garcia got some, Israel got some, and Jordan got some, and they're moving more aircraft here and stuff like that. So I just don't know what is going on. They're not moving any more of these bombers, except I did hear a B-52, an additional one is going in the Middle East, probably Diego Garcia, although it could be Qatar. I don't know. These are from people watching EAMs, watching trackers on the internet. And a lot of the transponders on American military flights are now getting turned off more and more. Not all, but a lot. So when the transponders get turned off, they really don't know where the plane went, but they could, take a guess, an educated guess, which is probably going to be right. So Iran thinks that America is going to show up Saturday. They'll be in separate rooms using a messenger or a courier from the Oman government. And they're going to decide on what the terms or the groundwork will be for the negotiations over the next 60 days. And I seriously doubt that's going to fly with Trump. So that means war is coming, and I don't know what Netanyahu, what Trump is waiting for. I don't know. He might be waiting for the other two aircraft carriers. That's a high probability. He may be wanting to bring more equipment in. He's still stripping equipment now from South Korea, the American base there, and bringing it to the Middle East. So he's taking equipment predominantly out of Ramstein in Germany and out of South Korea in that region. So they, based on these refueling tankers by the Straits of Gibraltar, Trump's bringing in more bombers. I don't know what type of bombers they are, but it looks like he's bringing bombers in. So it's even could be 300 flights, big cargo flights coming into the Middle East already. It's a huge thing. It's an unbelievably huge mobilization. And I don't think Trump and Witkoff and Netanyahu are going to stop for anything other than we want your nuke facilities destroyed, blown up, and we want to do it with our eyes on the ground and see it and watch it and know it's real. Then we'll give you the money. Not give them the money. Anyway, I don't know what they're going to do, but what's going to happen is it seems that if Trump goes there and says, okay, we're going to give the Iranians 2 months, Netanyahu's going to go nuts on him. Okay. And the world's going to go nuts on him because he scared the world with this nuclear thing. They'll have nuke bombs in days. He can't turn around and give them 2 months. Okay. He's already scared the people. What's he going to say? Well, I changed my mind. I believe them. They won't bomb us. Come on. You can't trust the Iranians. And you can't believe anything that comes out of their mouth. Okay, let me check the live stream. Oh, it's accurate what the Iranians want. It's ridiculous at the same time, but that's what they're trying for. Drinking more water. I never thought of that. Huh. Uh, I got rid of a few of the hecklers. They wait for me to get started, then they come in, so I got to go clean them out. You know, it's a credit to our credibility that they want to attack us. You know, moving forward. This jaw really hurts. Keep the prayers coming on that. I think it will prevail. Back to the notes here. The distance from Qatar to Iran's border is 119 miles by air, so you can see how close they are. And they might be giving Qatar a massive amount of anti-missile systems because Iran may rain missiles down on them big time. I don't care what happens to Qatar if you want my opinion. They're not a friend of ours. Zelensky of Ukraine is going to negotiate the mineral rights deal with Trump on today and tomorrow, Friday and Saturday. I believe in Washington. That I'm not 100%, but I think it is. And he's gave the Americans a shopping list of 50 billion with a B, $50 billion of weapons he would like. So he wants to buy. I believe he's going to buy them with the mineral rights deal. And then Trump may go for it. I don't know. He might. I'm not sure. America is currently flying drones around in Mexico. It appears that they're doing surveillance to get target packages to hit cartel mucky mucks, the big wigs in the cartels. Probably going for targeted assassinations. The Mexican government is going to go nuts when this happens. Will Ukraine and Trump reach a deal? I have no idea. But it's looking more and more likely they'll reach a deal because Zelensky keeps coming back. And Trump welcomes that, but he deals hard. Earlier today, gold was at $3,195. You know, the stock market crashed, it came back. I think it's crashing again. So the traders are making a fortune shorting and going long. All right, anyway, 31.95. I'm going to guess it probably went over 32 briefly as a guess. I haven't seen that. And silver was at 31.24, so it came back from the 29s. I think this is the highest I ever saw gold. When it hits in the 32.50, 32.60, that area, it's probably not going to go down below 3,000 very easily, or likely never at all. There's all this talk about Israeli pilots, reservists getting laid off, hundreds of them. Okay, let's debunk this thing once and for all. Yeah, some Israeli people signed a letter. They're calling it a letter. Maybe it was a petition or something, but it had no power. It's just a piece of paper stating that they didn't like what Netanyahu was doing, which is dragging out the war in Gaza for political reasons, which is to some extent, not 100%, but to some extent it's true. But then again, it's not true, because if Netanyahu just started carpet bombing Gaza, And he has had a sufficient amount of weapons to do that for probably 2 or 3 months. The hostages would get killed because the Hamas keeps them where they are. So you have to take this with push and pull. You can't just go swat Netanyahu. He's got other factors to deal with, okay? So anyway, the bottom line is pilots were supposed to be told not to report for duty again, and Israel is in crisis, running out of pilots, whatever. No. There were actually 6 Israeli Air Force reservist pilots caught up in this thing. So there's 6 reservist pilots that are no longer going to be called up for active duty. That's it. There were 900 and something people on this list. They told us a lot of them, the IDF, the Israeli military in general, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Army, they don't even know who these people are. They're not in the military. And yes, there are some crewmen. These are the people that work on the ground, on the planes, like refueling, changing the tires, maintenance. A bunch of them did get laid off, but I don't think it's that critical. Netanyahu is probably the one having an axe to grind with these people because he's very scared, facing 3 criminal cases that have been ongoing for years that he keeps postponing because of wars. It's not hard to sell the people that he's dragging the wars out to keep his criminal cases from closing out and him going to jail. I believe it myself. Okay. But on the other hand, you can't just turn around and say, Netanyahu should just carpet bomb, the Gaza, because there's a lot of international implications, and Biden didn't want it. Trump really wants the hostages back alive. I'm hearing reports there's 22 living hostages, and then I'm hearing other reports there's 24. I don't know. We could say about 23, can't we? It would be pretty close. I don't think they're getting any hostages back from Hamas because Hamas has no bargaining power. I think the only condition would be if Hamas decides it's in their best interest to shut down their organization and depart physically from Gaza. And Israel will give them, basically an exemption from going after them and grabbing them and extraditing them to Israel. Then they don't need the hostages anymore, and they could give them back, probably in return for releasing of terrorist prisoners in the Israeli jails. So, do we see any indication that Hamas is going to do that? Absolutely none. Zero, nothing. Okay? They're not even talking about demilitarizing and staying in Gaza. Demilitarizing in Gaza is nonsense because they'll just bury and hide weapons and they'll demilitarize and then go dig them up and then you're in the soup again with them. So I don't know what the Israelis' plan is. Indonesia seems to be ready to take Gazans that are willing to, on their own free will, leave Gaza. So they might pick up a few thousand or something. They're not going to get a big influx. Okay. So in these days, in these end times where we're at right now today, I don't see any ceasefires working. I don't think Israel and Turkey are going to have a good agreement about the Turkey military in Syria. It's not going to work. Israel's going to, or has already said they're going to give them red lines, and Turkey will either say okay and violate them, or Turkey will say no, go fly a kite. Okay, so it's not going to work. Ukraine and Russia ceasefire is obviously not working, and America and Iran, whatever you want to call it, nuke treaty, nuke deal, whatever, ceasefire, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, isn't going to work either. Okay? It's likely that now Trump and the UK and the European Union and NATO are not very happy with North Korea sending thousands of missiles to Putin. They are going to try to make North Korea's life worse if they possibly can, or terminal if they can. I don't know how far they'll go, but they're not, believe me, they're not happy. It makes the war drag on. It makes it more burdensome on the NATO and European countries with weapons and aid to Ukraine. It just messes them up. Panama has signed a treaty with Hexas to not charge America any toll cost for any American government ship, okay? It's not going to apply to commercial shipping from America. It's only going to be American government boats. And really, American government boats are almost exclusively the military. So they got that out of them. They put a wing of Air Force planes down in Panama, and there's some grounds for limited troops Panama's agreeing to, I believe. So America's going to have not dictatorial power over the Panama Canal, but a tremendous influence. And they're going to make sure that they keep troops there. There'll be probably 2 or 3 warships there, and some aircraft and stuff like that, so they could be an early warning beacon to America if need be. Where's gold going to go? I don't know. Gold could hit 5,000. I don't know. I mean, there's people saying 15,000. Gee, that's hard to believe, really. Maybe. I don't know. Okay, I think, let me see what I left out here. Yeah, new law or something in America. Illegal aliens in the United States must register, I think, in 1 or 2 days. So, in other words, they're in the country illegally and they have to register with, I guess, the immigration authorities and fill out a form. It probably says, are you in the country illegally? They got to check yes. Then it's going to be, your name, your address in your other country, where you're living here, how long you've been here. Do you have a bank account? What's the name of it? And the account number. Do you have a passport, a driver's license, a green card, blah, 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 right? And then they're also being told they can call on the phone and book a flight for free out of America to go back where their own country is, right? And they're being told that if they don't leave voluntarily, when they get picked up, they will face prison. But he's also sending some of them to prison in El Salvador. Of course, the price is about half what federal prison in America costs. Now, that sounds crazy to me. It should be 20%, 25%. But there's other countries that'll do this for America also, maybe cheaper. But remember, they've got to get 3 hots and a cot, okay? So they got to give them a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner. Now, could the lunch be a bologna sandwich? I guess. Could the dinner be pizza? I don't know what they feed them in El Salvador. I have no idea. But I would take a guess that the American prisons feed them a lot better. I would take a guess that if they get any medical treatment at all in El Salvador, it's going to be rather crappy. Not to say the federal prison system's medical is going to be rather crappy. I think it'll be better than El Salvador, but I don't think it's that great. But I don't know. So, a lot of these guys go in there and they need an operation. They got a knee problem. They got a hernia problem. They need teeth pulled. They need work on their teeth. They need new glasses. They need this. They go in there and they get rehabbed for free. They don't get out of jail and have legitimate jobs with medical plans, so. But anyway, so this could be where we see the people leaving America in Jeremiah 50:51 for fear of the oppressing sword. I better find that verse for you. We're going to be dealing with Jeremiah 50:51 a lot in a minute, so let me get that verse. I can't remember every verse in my head. I believe we're in Jeremiah 50:16. I will go there. Cut off the sower from Babylon. That's an agricultural worker that does the planting of the seeds and the harvest. A lot of illegals do that. And him that handleth the sickle in the time of the harvest. Those are the ones that harvest the crops. Again, illegals to a great extent. For fear of the oppressing sword, they shall turn every one to his people, and they shall flee every one to his own land. Okay? Does that not sound like what Trump's just initiated? Of course it does. Let's check out the word for oppressing, which is in the Hebrew, so we could work with it. 3238, Strong's number. Yanah. Maltreat, wrong, oppress. Let's see what Strong's does with the word. Rage, violent, suppress, maltreat, destroy, thrust out. Thrust out. Gee, that strikes home, huh? By oppress. By oppressing. Thrust them out by oppressing. Well, it sounds like it to me. A subscriber pointed this out to me some weeks ago, and I said, yeah, I have to agree. It does sound like it. Cut off the sower. Let's take a look at that word. which is karat, which means to cut off, as in kill him, Let's see what Strong's deals with this, how he deals with it. Strong's is better than the other ones, actually. To cut, to destroy, consume, and also says to covenant, that is, make an alliance or bargain, originally by cutting flesh and passing between the pieces. Okay, so that's exactly what he's doing. A covenant is making a deal with them. He's saying, hey, register, then call up and get a free flight and get out. If you don't, and we pick you up in our raids and stuff, you're going to go to jail. And I would say I'm 99% Trump is not going to put him in federal prisons with Elon Musk running around when they could cut the price of incarcerating him by half or more in another country. Do these people have rights? Can America not do that? No, they're in the country illegally. They have no rights as Americans. Under the Biden administration, they probably were treated that way. But when you sneak into America illegally, you're a criminal. You made a criminal entry, okay, in reality. And your being there is part of the crime. And that part of the crime does not protect you and give you constitutional rights. So Trump will argue that correctly if the courts come after him. Okay? So do I think you're going to see a few million take off out of America? Yeah. Yeah. He hasn't let the cat out of the bag that you're going to jail in El Salvador or some other countries. But he'll do it. I don't know how long we'll put him in jail. He may put him in some jail where they tell him, if you don't work, you don't eat. How does that work? Well, in some places, if they work, they'll get good meals, okay? Like in the morning, they'll get hot oatmeal, cold cereal with milk, or they might get eggs with meat or vegetables and toast with butter and jam and stuff like that, right? Remember when I was young, I used to work in a jail. I was a deputy sheriff, not a corrections officer, but I spent time working in the jail. And we had our own farm. It was in California. We had our own farm, and we raised agricultural animals and a lot of food, and we put a lot of them on the farm to work. But we were running a county jail where nobody could go to for more than a year, unless maybe somebody was up for murder, and we would hold them without bail in usually max security until the trial came up, which might not be, but I mean, typically speaking, if you were sentenced for more than a year, you went to the state prison, not the county jail. So we had a tremendous amount of the population that did nothing because they weren't in for very long. Okay, sometimes they were in till they made bail, or sometimes they were in till they went to their court case and they got out on own recognizance, or they got out on probation, or they were no longer our problem because they pled guilty and they went to the state prison for 19 years or 3 years or whatever, right? So we had people that were there that worked in the kitchen prepping the food. We had people that worked on the farm where we had the food growing and the animals. And we had others that, of all the crazy things, they used to have them work at the gun range. They had them reloading the ammunition, the practice ammunition the deputies would use at the gun range, which sounds absolutely freaking bizarre, but believe me, cops do things like this. Trust me, they do. So they were reloading ammo. So they were running around after there was, shooting at the range. They would pick up the spent cases that fell down. We were using revolvers back then, okay? So 38s and 357s were the norm. You weren't supposed to carry an off-duty gun smaller than a 380, but I used to have a 32 Beretta I carried, which is a puny gun, but it's a rather accurate gun. And you can make it work, but only with precision surgical accuracy, like a headshot or a spinal shot or something like that. If you shoot the hip and try to make the hip collapse with a 32, it ain't gonna work. You need like 158 grain 38 special or a 357 with the same weight, or a 45 ACP or a heavy 40 S&W or something to play that game. I would never use that again, but I had one and I used it. And then I also had a 22 Magnum Derringer made by High Standard that I carried around sometimes. And that was, again, not a very, it would hurt the heck out of somebody. It was a 22 Magnum, not a regular 22, but it was, it wasn't a real man-stopper. So they would reload the ammo. They'd clean the casings, go through all the reloading protocol. And they worked in the kitchen, and what else did they do? Well, I know the captain used to take a crew of them to his house once or twice a week, and they would clean and work on his yard, and then he'd let them split up a 6-pack or 2, or probably 1 6-pack of beer, so they'd probably each get to drink 1 beer. You can't do stuff like that today, but back then you could. We used to carry blackjacks. Our uniforms had a pocket for the blackjack. That's a piece of lead with a spring and a holder covered in leather. And we used to just drag it out of the pocket, and then if you crack somebody on the head, they would go down like they got hit by lightning. I mean, they would just go out for the count. Unfortunately, they could be in a coma. They could have skull fractures with pieces of the skull being pushed around the body. You could create all kinds of problems with that. But if you hit them in the elbow or the wrist or the fingers or the knee, you would probably not get much of a break or a break at all, but you would cause some immensely acute pain, So these things, and then we also had the wooden sticks, and they used to drill holes in them and put molten lead in there and seal them up. I never bothered with anything like that. I loved the blackjack, but I was a martial artist already when I did this, and the blackjack is the king. Now there's a slapjack or a flat blackjack type thing, and they're pretty good too. It has more of a solid metal spring, where the blackjack has a round spring, and they both have leather handle for the hands, so it's hard for the bad guy to take it away from you. Not impossible, it gets difficult for them. And you're not going to have it fly out of your hand, Now you could go, when a guy's coming at you, you could go boom, boom, and go back and forth with these things, either one of them. The flat one, the advantage of that is the edge of the thing. It was usually 2 to 4 ply leather, and it was hard as all get up. So you could hit somebody with the edge on the wrist or the hand or something like that. But they would both be rather potent. But the blackjack, what people don't usually know is if you take it and you hit it, let's say you took a towel and folded it 4 times and you put it on a table and you hit it, you can actually sometimes get a double hit. It hits and then bounces back because of the spring pressure. It hits, it comes up, and then the spring sends it back again. So you actually can get 2 hits if the person you're hitting is not moving. People don't really understand these weapons. And you can get them in all different sizes. You usually want to get one that's about 8 or 9 inches. And you can't use them. I don't know any American police department that lets people carry these anymore today. You can carry them in Florida with a concealed weapons permit. They let you carry them. But you got to be careful with these things, because if you hurt somebody and they sue you and you go to court, the lawyers are going to start bringing up how no police department could use them, or corrections department. In my day, I'm old, the big prisons in Florida, like Rayford, where they had Sparky, the electric chair, what they had is they had a nightstick that was about this long. How many inches? 10, 12 inches. And it was made out of steel. It looked like a wooden nightstick. It had a leather thong. It had grooves in the handle, but it was solid metal. Was it aluminum? I don't think so. I think it was steel. I only saw one once. I was in the prison, not as a prisoner. I was there on a tour of the prison, and the guy showed it to me. He was a corrections officer, and it had a 12 gauge tear gas round in it, one round. 12 gauge tear gas. That's a tremendous amount of tear gas. So what the psychology was is, if you had people rioting in the jail, and this was a max security prison, you would show up and you'd fire the tear gas and try to get as many of them in the face as you can. Now, you got to watch your own self, too. And then you could start subduing them. And if they were going to fight back, we're okay. They just, idiot thing popped up a message about a software update, like during the live stream. What a stupid thing. So they had these metal clubs, but my sergeant in the jail used to have a big nightstick. He was probably 50, 55 years old, so he didn't trust his own physical ability anymore. He was probably 2 to 5 years of retirement, something like that. He was a fun guy, a nice guy. Once, me and another friend of mine caused a riot in the jail. And he backed us, which was, he was a good guy. He was really into the blue line stuff. So he had a nightstick made out of wood. I don't know which type of wood it was. And it had, probably 6 or 8 inches of lead filled inside the stick towards the end, away from the handle. So you got a lot of leverage. And that was legal too, so we were in a different world. We didn't have bulletproof vests. Nobody used them. SWAT and occasionally things like that, they had access to some of the old, big, thick, heavy bulletproof vests, like the John Dillinger Day type vests. They didn't have the small ones until much later. So you were out and you didn't have a vest. That was your life, right? So you had to be a lot more careful, let's put it that way. But, so anyway, yeah, so I don't know, so I know a little bit about jails, but I think when the word gets out, I think it's kind of mandatory that Trump is going to have to send them to foreign prisons. If he sends them to American prisons, there's going to be all these like NGO type organizations that are going to pop up and fund lawyers to file constant appeals and complaints with the treatment the guy's getting in court. He wants conjugal visits. He wants conjugal visits more often. He wants free sex gender modification surgery, or he wants plastic surgery so he'll feel better about himself and not be a criminal even though he's an illegal, or whatever they're going to do. It just constantly bombard the court with cases, How are they going to do that in El Salvador? What are they going to hire an El Salvador lawyer? But El Salvador is going to say it's not for us to determine anything about this person's guilt or innocence or sentence. We're just warehousing for America. You have to go to America and talk to America, go to their courts. So an El Salvador attorney can't go to American courts. So how are you going to make this work? Well, the NGOs could go to an American court and say, we're filing a motion that it's cruel and unusual punishment to put him in this prison, but, then they don't have American civil rights. And so Trump is probably going to be able to get away with this, and it's probably going to cause a lot of them to leave on their own. And we see that in Scripture, above and beyond and foremost. That's why I say it. So, yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of them leaving. The oppressing sword is not invaders or sleeper agents that are going to burn houses and shoot people. It's oppressing is like, how are they going to oppress people? They're not. They're going to kill them. They're not going to oppress them. They're going to kill them. Okay? If they see a guy with a beautiful Rolex with diamonds and rubies, they're not going to say, give me the watch. They'll just shoot him in the head and then take the watch. You don't understand what Muslim terrorists are like. You will. But a lot of people don't quite grasp it yet. They will. All right, let's talk about, let me check the live stream because we got a lot of nasty people that go in there. They hate believers and they like evil. And let's see what's going on. I'm not in New York City. I'm in Israel. The earliest I ever saw New York City get dark in October was about 4:30 in the afternoon. Okay. So why the daughter of Babylon is America and it's not the old Babylon? What happened with Babylon? The Israelites were sent to Babylon for 70 years. Jehovah told them through the prophets that they would be treated well, to have children, not worry, and just go for it. And they would come back after 70 years, which happened. Nebuchadnezzar was the leader of Babylon at the time. Babylon was located in what we call Iraq today. Okay? Saddam Hussein even built some historical monument / museum at the actual site of Babylon, which is about 50 or so miles from Baghdad, Iraq. Okay? And it's still standing. It's like a museum thing where the Babylon was. Now, the old Babylon was actually a city, C-I-T-Y, city, right? Municipality, city. In the scriptures in Jeremiah 50 and 51, it says things like, I will kindle fires in and around or in and about your cities. Plural. Plural. It talks about cities many times in the daughter of Babylon passages in Jeremiah 50, 51, where Babylon was just a city. How did Cyrus attack Babylon? Okay. Cyrus was one country. Don't let them tell you that all the other countries that he was administering were also in it. It wasn't. It was Cyrus and Cyrus's army. That's who came. Okay? It wasn't all these other countries we see in Jeremiah 50 and 51. There's a number of countries coming over there. It's huge, right? It's huge. He came with his army. He showed up outside the gates of Babylon. And he started attacking, and they attacked from behind the walls. Then they came out and drove him back. And then he realized he couldn't get anywhere with those walls of Babylon. They were so thick and wide, I should say. They drove chariots on the walls. It was huge. And they laughed at Cyrus, and they went back behind their walls and just basically kicked back and conducted commerce. The civilians in the area saw the army coming, and they went inside the walls, and the city of Babylon was more than happy to let them in and protect them. And maybe they were sleeping in the streets, or I don't know where they slept. I don't have any idea what they were doing. But they could have slept in the streets. They could have found places to sleep under. I don't know. Maybe they had hotels, or maybe the army helped them. I don't have any idea. Maybe they actually lived there and had a house. So they kept a large amount of food stored inside the walls of Babylon so they could handle a siege for a long time, maybe 2 or 3 years. You know, the idea was if you lay a siege to Babylon, the city, nothing gets in and nothing gets out, so the people run out of food. That's what the Romans did to Jerusalem in 70 AD, and it worked because Jerusalem was not in the habit of storing a large amount of food. They didn't have that set up. But the Babylonians did. Okay? So they didn't have barrels of water stored. They had a river, which I think was the Euphrates, had a tributary or something that ran under the wall, the main gate of Babylon, or one of the big gates, into Babylon. It was running water, and I believe it passed through. It probably went in and then went out on the other side. So when they needed water, they just took buckets and scooped it out of the river. Did they catch fish in the river? This I'm not told, maybe. But they would just get their water from the river. So whatever they needed in water, they just scooped it up with buckets and stuff, right? So what Cyrus did is he immediately, after he saw how stupid it was to attack them at the main gates, he had his soldiers dig 28 tributaries off of that path of water going under the walls of Babylon. It had to pass through Babylon, the city, because if it didn't, it would have just kept the place flooded, you know, so I'm pretty sure it passed in and out. So he did tributaries. He dug ditches to divert the water away from the wall of Babylon, where it entered the city of Babylon, so it wouldn't get there. Now, they never thought of this. So what happened is during the night, they made 28 tributaries, and the water was not going into Babylon anymore, but this was in the middle of the night. Then he had his soldiers walk in under the wall of Babylon, where the river was, on the riverbed, and they were inside Babylon without firing a shot, so to speak, right? And the watchmen in Babylon weren't very worried about it because they figured if they were going to penetrate the wall, there would be battering rams and catapults and all sorts of noise, and they were sleeping, I guess. And when the people woke up for breakfast in Babylon, they went out on their patio or their yard or whatever, and they had their slaves, bring them their breakfast. They saw Cyrus's soldiers walking around Babylon, and they didn't know what was going on, but I imagine later that morning they found out they were prisoners, and they lost the war without firing a shot. He took it by surprise. Now, why do you think this happened? Because God promised the Jews they would be safe there, the Israelites. And they were living inside the walls of Babylon. So if it was a regular siege with catapults, with fireballs, fire arrows, all sorts of junk, ramming the walls, storming the place, trying to burn the place down, the Israelites would have suffered. They would have got hit from catapults. They would have got hit with arrows. Their houses and stuff would have got burned. They would have got burned. It would have been horrible, right? So he gave Cyrus a way to get in without harming the Israelites, which is what happened. Okay? And there was no fighting. He wasn't fighting the Babylonians. When they realized what happened, they were already captured and taken. He had a big army. They gave in. It was over. And then he sent the Israelites back. He got their temple artifacts from the storage in Babylon, and he gave it back to them, the menorah from the temple and other things, and he gave them money, letters of safe passage, I think, with soldiers too, to escort them, sent them back to Jerusalem. He was God's servant, okay? Now, if you try to compare this to the daughter of Babylon passages, and you think it's a fit, you're out of your mind. Or you're listening to some lying pastor in a denomination that's trying to fill your head with garbage to make you think America's not the daughter of Babylon. Because that's the theater of the absurd. Okay? Now I'm going to take a break for a minute. We're going to go through a lot of other little details to show you that this is not possible in a million years of being the old Babylon. And I'm going to go through it with you. But there's people that are going to still believe it because they're in denial about America. There's a few reasons why people won't believe America's the daughter of Babylon. It's not the scriptures. It's that they just don't want to believe it. Okay? They go to the churches and they don't understand the churches don't teach the Bible. They just fool them into thinking they're teaching the Bible. It's a hard one to swallow. The preppers, the survivalists, and the gun people don't believe it. So one of the theories they come up with is that this happened already, and it's really it's the scriptures are talking about it in the past. So let's bounce through the scriptures a bit, and I'll show you why it's America and why it's not from the old Babylon, okay? So you go to Jeremiah 50, and he says, the land of the Chaldeans. The Babylonians were wealthy. They were witches. They worshiped demons. A Chaldean was like an astrologer, not an astrologer, an astronomy, no, an astrologer, predicting the future from the stars, familiar spirit, stupid stuff, seances, probably, crap like that. Her idols are confounded. San Francisco just put a picture of some woman, demonic idol, up by what's called the Ferry Building. When you take Market Street and you follow it down to the bay, the water, there's a ferry building where they launch ferries to Marin County and Oakland, I guess, and stuff like that. And it has a big clock on it. And they got this statue, I don't know, it's 50, 60 feet high, of some demonic woman. They just put it up. They're all over the place. Statue of Liberty. The Supreme Court, the White House, they're built like Roman temples with the Tiffium, the triangular piece at the top, and the pillars. They just look like Roman and Greek temples because they worship the same people the Greeks and the Romans worship. They're demons in there, not people, demons. It says it comes out of the north, a nation against her. So that's probably coming from Canada or through Canada. But they say, oh, it was only one nation. Okay, let's read and see, because that's not true. Then it says, in those days and in that time, saith Jehovah, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah together, going and weeping, they shall go and seek Jehovah Elohim. Okay. The Jews came back from Babylon. Very good point. However, Judah came back from Babylon. Israel, the 10 lost tribes, didn't come back from Babylon. I don't believe they were there. They were already scattered elsewhere. Makes no sense. They're in America, and they're in other parts of the world. It says, in those days and at that time, the children of Israel and the children of Judah together, going and weeping. They weren't weeping when they left the daughter of Babylon, shall go and seek Jehovah their God. It doesn't say they're coming just from America, does it? No, they're coming from the world. It's the next great Exodus, the end of the age. Let's keep reading. They shall ask the way to Zion, their faces thitherward, saying, come and let us join ourselves to Jehovah in a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. Well, they forgot the covenant, so we never had a perpetual covenant back then, because look how they've been living in Israel for 2,000 years. So again, more evidence it never happened in the past. My people hath been lost sheep. Shepherd caused them to go astray. Okay, that could be easily, you could apply that anywhere, but it says they have forgotten their resting place. The people in Babylon never forgot their resting place. Remember, they were singing songs about it? I never forgot it. All that found them have devoured them. That didn't happen in Babylon. It's talking of the general next great exodus. Their adversary said, we offend not because they have sinned against Jehovah, the habitation of justice, even Jehovah, the hope of their fathers. Remove out of the midst of Babylon and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans, and be as the he-goats before the flock. For I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. They weren't even firing arrows to take Babylon over. They took it over peacefully by sneaking under the wall. And it says great nations in the plural. It's not just Cyrus. The historians tell you it was Cyrus. And Chaldea shall be a spoil. All that spoiled her shall be satisfied. I'm sure they spoiled her. Your mother shall be sore confounded. See, America is using the same demon that the old Babylon used. The same demons running the old Babylon is running the America. That's why they call it daughter of Babylon. Because of the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Every one that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at her plagues. Babylon has museums there. People are there. It's a tourist attraction in Iraq. It's just never happened. And the country that contains it, Iraq, was never made a desolate place before either. Put yourselves in array against Babel, round about, all you that bend the bow. Shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she hath sinned against Jehovah. I would say the bows are the missile launchers and the arrows are the missiles. Shout against her round about, she hath given her hand, that means surrendered. Her foundations are fallen, her walls are thrown down, for it is the vengeance of Jehovah, the vengeance upon her, as she hath done, do unto her. They never threw the walls down. Cyrus never took the walls down. Cut off, that I know about, cut off the sower from Babel, and him that handleth the sickle, in the time of harvest, for fear of the oppressing sword. They shall turn everyone to his people, and they shall flee everyone to his own land. That never happened with Cyrus. Never. Now in Jeremiah 50:20, it says, in those days and in that time, saith Jehovah, the lawlessness of Israel shall be sought for, and there shall be none. And the sins of Judah, and they shall not be found. For I will pardon them whom I reserve. This is Zechariah 12:10. This is probably the same day, the day of vengeance. Maybe it's before the day of vengeance that America gets destroyed. But when this happened to Babylon, the lawlessness of Israel was not sought for. There was no such redemption that ever took place back then. These are people that are ignorant or liars that are trying to play against people that don't study their own Bible. In verse 22, it says, the sound of battle was in the land and great destruction. There was no sound of battle. They snuck under the wall and they just took the place over. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder? Is America not the hammer of the whole earth? What, they got 80 or 90 bases around the world in different countries, or 200 bases or something like that? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babel. See, Trump's in a snare, and he doesn't know it. And thou wast not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against Jehovah. You don't see Trump coming out and criticizing San Francisco and saying, well, they're putting up graven images to demonic gods, and God's going to punish us, and we got to stop that. No, he has murals in his house in New York City of these same mythological gods on his ceiling. The pictures were readily available in Google for a long time, but when he became president, they started disappearing. You can still find them occasionally. Trump going to pass a law that says you can't build demonic idols and images in America? Please. Of course not. Verse 26, come against her from the utmost border, open her storehouses, cast her up as heaps, and destroy her utterly, let nothing be left. Utmost border, probably Canada, maybe Alaska, maybe Russia, China, North Korea come in through the Bering Straits into Alaska, drop down through Canada and come in. And Canada probably welcome them at this point. Makes sense. The voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babylon, to declare in Zion the vengeance of Jehovah Elohim, and the vengeance of his temple. They didn't escape out of Babylon with Cyrus. He invited them to go back to Israel and gave them money, soldiers, letters of safe passage, all that stuff. Call together the archers against Babylon. I would say missile launchers. All you that bend the bow, camp against it round about. Let none thereof escape. Recompense her according to her work, according to all that she hath done. Do unto her, for she hath been proud against Jehovah, against his Holy One of Israel. Therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, and her men of war shall be cut off in that day, saith the Lord. Well, I believe it was a peaceful takeover from the history books. Behold, I am against thee, O most proud, saith Adonai Jehovah of hosts. For the day is come, the time that I will visit thee. We don't read of a visitation like that regarding the old Babylon that I remember. Maybe it's there, I don't remember. And the most proud shall stumble and fall, and none shall raise him up, and I will kindle a fire in his cities. Babylon, the old day one, had no cities. It was a city, a single city. You got it? It was a city. Okay? And kindle a fire in it? That never happened. If that would have happened, all the Israelites would have got burned up and killed. And he didn't want that for them. He promised them safety there. Can't be the old Babylon. Don't let these liars fool you. Thus saith Jehovah of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captive held them fast. They refused to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong. Jehovah of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. A sword is upon the Chaldeans, saith Jehovah, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon, and upon the princes, and upon their wise men. A sword is upon the liars. Oh, that's America. And they shall dote. A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. Swords upon her horses and chariots. Oh, I'm just going to skip through these passages here. A drought is upon her waters, and they shall be dried up. That never happened when Cyrus attacked Babylon. The water was running quite nicely. They didn't have any of that. It's the land of graven images. The old Babylon and America both have that. I got to hand you that one. They are mad upon their idols. I agree. That probably was in both places, because it's called the daughter of Babylon. Therefore, the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the islands shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell therein. It shall be no more inhabited, but it is inhabited today, forever. Neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. It's a tourist attraction. Didn't happen. As God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities, they got burned up, Sodom and Gomorrah, right? I will kindle fires in and around your cities, right? This place never got burned up. Thereof saith Jehovah, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell there. No, there are people dwelling there and living there today. You can get over there and fly over there and see it. They have pictures of it, movies. People buy guns. They don't understand what they need to do in America is buy a dozen fire extinguishers. Maybe they could save their house, but you can't talk to them. Behold, a people shall come from the north, and a great nation, and many kings shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth. The coast of the earth would be North, South, and Central America. They came to attack Babylon, the old Babylon, right? See how silly they are? They prey on people that don't know the scriptures, and they try to put spells, enchantments, and witchcraft on you. They work your eyes. Watch how they try to stare in your eyes, and then just say, excuse me, go to the bathroom, and then demon toss them, teach the demon a lesson. They shall, okay, so this was definitely not the attack on the old Babylon, not even close. They shall hold the bow in the lance. They are cruel, show mercy. Their voice shall roar as the sea. They shall ride upon horses, even put in array like a man to the battle against the daughter of Babylon. The king of Babylon hath heard the report of them, and his hands waxed feeble. Anguish took hold of him, and panic as a woman in travail. Travail is the birth of a nation in a day. There's a hint there. Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan unto the habitation of the strong, but I will make them suddenly run away from her, who is a chosen man, that I may appoint over her, who is like me, and who will appoint the time, and who is that shepherd that will stand before me. It's either the two witnesses, Elijah, Apostle John, or Yeshua. But it appears that she's in Israel near the Jordan River, which is up where I am. And she runs away. So I guess the American army is going to be here to some extent. Oh, wait a second. I got in the wrong chapter. Whoa, what did I do? Let me get back. Sorry about that. Let me get myself back in where I was. Let's go to Jeremiah 50. No, let's get where I am. Okay, Jeremiah 50:45. Therefore, hear you the counsel of Jehovah that hath taken against Babylon, and his purpose that he hath purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he should make their habitation desolate with them. At the noise of the taking of Babel, the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among the nations. I doubt that happened in the old Babylon. It was a very quiet takeover. Jeremiah 51. Thus saith Jehovah, behold, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them, and rise up against me a destroying wind. Have you noticed all the tornadoes and bad storms hitting America? That's the continuing whirlwind of the Lord falling on the head of the wicked. That didn't happen in the old Babylon days. There's no mention of it. And will send unto Babel fanners that shall fan and shall empty her. That's loot and pillage. In the day of trouble, they shall be against her round about. Against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow, and against them that lifted himself up in his brigadine, and spare you not the young men. Okay, let me keep going. For Israel hath not been forsaken, nor Judah of his God, of the Lord of hosts. though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel. Well, their land was pretty much empty when they were in Babylon, but okay, we're not going to split hairs with you. Flee you out of the midst of Babel and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her lawlessness, for this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. It says flee. They didn't do that. The Israelites just stayed there. Okay. And when Cyrus took over, it's probably weeks or months went by or something like that. He let them go. Helped them go. Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad. To some extent, probably the old Babylon did that kind of stuff too, I guess. That's why America is called the daughter of Babylon. Babylon is suddenly taken and destroyed. Howl for her. Take balm for her pain. If so be she may be healed. She may be healed. Babylon. She may be, there's something wrong with the English. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go, everyone into his own country, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up to the skies. Okay? So this was a general dispersion to different countries. That was not what happened when Cyrus took Babylon. Some weeks or months after, the Jews came out and went back to Israel. They didn't come out during the attack. Jehovah hath brought forth our righteousness. Come and let us declare in Zion the work of Jehovah. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. Jehovah hath raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, for his device is against Babel to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of Jehovah, the vengeance of his temple. Set up the standard upon the walls of Babylon, make the watch strong, set up the watchmen, prepare ambushes. Jehovah hath both devised and done that which he spake against the inhabitants of Babylon. The watchmen are the soldiers and the ICE agents on the wall watching for illegal aliens. That's what that is. It's in place now. And they're preparing ambushes. Well, when they try to sneak in, they jump them. This is past tense. It's ongoing now, actually. O thou that dwellest upon many waters. You got 8,000 rivers. You probably have 250,000 lakes in America. You have the Great Lakes, of course, which are almost like oceans. And you got Atlantic, Pacific, and the Gulf of America. Babylon doesn't have that, the old Babylon. It was a desert area, really. But they fixed it. They had irrigation. They had the plants and the walls of Babylon and all that stuff. Okay. So the one that dwells on the many waters is America. It's not Saudi Arabia, Mecca, or Medina, what waters. It's not the Vatican, what waters. There's no Jews to leave the Vatican, nor are there any Jews to leave Saudi Arabia. So how are you going to have that exodus out of Babylon to come to Israel? Jehovah of hosts had sworn by himself, saying, surely I will fill thee with men as with caterpillars, and they shall lift up a shout against thee. These are your sleeper agents, military-age males, 60% of the many millions of illegals. They will rise up. He hath made the earth by his power. He hath established the world by his wisdom, and hath stretched out the heaven by his understanding. Verse 16, Jeremiah 51:16. He uttereth his voice, there is a multitude of waters in the heavens. That's on the other side of the firmament. And the firmament stops, I think, where the airplanes stop flying, or maybe it's a little higher, I'm not sure. And then the other side is water. So space is full of water, not a vacuum, but you want to go listen to the scientists, I can't help you. And he causes the vapors that ascendeth from the ends of the earth. He maketh lightnings with rain. And bringeth forth the wind out of his treasures. Every man is brutish by his knowledge. Every founder is confounded by the graven image, for his molten image is falsehood, and there is no breath in them. They are vanity, the work of errors. In the time of their visitation, they shall perish. The portion of Yaakov, that's the 12 tribes of Israel, is not like them. For he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. Jehovah of hosts is his name. That's the inheritance too. We inherit our Father God. We get restored to him. Thou art my battle axe and weapon of war. Have you not seen us put a good whooping on Hamas and Hezbollah and the things we had to destroy in Syria, and we gave it to the Houthis a few times? For with thee will I break in pieces the heathen nations, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms. See, we're going to be fighting again after redemption. And with thee will I break in pieces the horse and his rider, and with thee will I break in pieces the chariot and his rider. With thee also will I break in pieces man and woman, and with thee will I break in pieces old and young, and with thee will I break in pieces the young man and the maid. Well, we've been doing this in Gaza, Lebanon, and West Bank also. I will also break in pieces with thee the shepherd and his flock. We did a bunch of that in Gaza and Lebanon and in the West Bank. And with thee will I break in pieces the husband and his yoke of oxen. And with thee will I break in pieces captains and rulers. There's more to come with this. It's not all completed, but it's in process. It started already. I will render unto Babel and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight. Well, yeah, the old Babylon did evil. And it's telling us that America is also going to do evil in our sight. Now, let's break that down carefully. And I will render unto Babel, or Babylon in English, and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea, all their evil that they have done in Zion. Nah, it doesn't say in Zion. See, they're adding words. Let's break this down. They have done. That word is 6213. Asa, yeah, do, done, did, whatever. Okay. And then it says in Zion, but it doesn't say in Zion. It just says Sion. Zion, Sion is the word. But and then it says ayin, which means eye. So you would interpret that in English means that you saw it. So it's saying that the daughter of Babylon is going to do evil in Israel that we see in your sight. And I would say Trump will have soldiers here and they're going to turn against Israel. Very likely it could have something to do with Elijah training the Levites with the next temple in Jerusalem. Could be that. I don't know. I'm just speculating on that, but that's what it's telling us, and you better believe it. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith Jehovah. Well, he calls Babylon a destroying mountain. In other places, he makes it a burnt mountain. In other words, useless, destroyed wreck. So if he calls it a burnt mountain, it's the same place, the mountain, It means a big, powerful country. Jehovah, which destroyeth all the earth, and I will stretch out my hand upon thee and roll thee down. Roll thee down from the rocks and will make thee a burnt mountain. And they shall not take of thee a stone for a corner, nor a stone for a foundation, but thou shalt be desolate forever, saith Jehovah. That didn't happen. Not with the old Babylon in Iraq. Set you up a standard in the land. Blow the trumpet among the nations. Prepare the heathen nations against her. Call together against her the kingdoms of Arat, Mini, Ashkenaz. Okay. All those kingdoms didn't come with Cyrus. Prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes, the captains thereof, the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion. And but this doesn't match what happened with Cyrus. And the land shall tremble and sorrow, for every purpose of Jehovah shall be performed against Babel, to make the land of Babylon a desolation without an inhabitant. And that never happened yet, not with the old Babylon. The mighty men of Babel have forborne to fight. they have remained in their holds. The mighty men of Babel have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holds. Their might hath failed. They became as women. They have burned her dwelling places. Her bars are broken. They weren't burning the dwelling places in old Babylon because they would be killing the Jews who God promised would be safe there. But the soldiers in the old Babylon apparently didn't fight either, and the ones in the new Babylon won't fight either. So there is a common thread there about that. One post shall run to meet another, and one messenger to meet another, to show the king of Babylon that his city is taken at one end. The whole city was taken over. There weren't messengers going there like there was a battle or something. And then it says they have burned the reeds with fire, and the men of war were frightened. They didn't do the burning in the old Babylon. It didn't go on. The daughter of Babylon is like a threshing floor. I will thresh her yet a little while, and the time of her harvest shall come. They were never told about a harvest in the old Babylon. It was an exodus, not a harvest. A harvest is the separation between the wheat and the tares, the darnel and the wheat. And the darnel gets to the pit, they get burned up, they get killed. Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babel, hath devoured me, he hath crushed me, he hath made me an empty vessel, he hath swallowed me up like a dragon, he hath filled his belly with my delicates, he hath cast me out. That's the one that got the violence. I'm in verse 35, Jeremiah 51. The violence done to me and to my flesh, that's Israel, be upon Babylon. Shall the inhabitant of Zion say? Well, there weren't inhabitants of Zion to speak of when they were in the Babylonian captivity. The Babylonians left a few of the poor people here to be gardeners. That was it. The inhabitants of Zion say, no applicability to the old Babylon. And my blood upon the inhabitants of Chaldea shall Jerusalem say. Therefore, thus saith Jehovah, behold, I will plead thy cause and take vengeance for thee, and I will dry up her sea and make her springs dry. That never happened in the old Babylon. What sea are we talking about in Iraq anyway? And Babylon shall become heaps, a dwelling place for dragons, an astonishment and a hissing without an inhabitant. Nope, didn't happen that way at all. Not at all. They shall roar together like lions. Now, Iraq's going to get devastated in the near future, rest assured. But I'm talking about Iraq. Okay. And it's not the destruction of the daughter of Babylon, Iraq. I mean, somebody might try to dream that up in the church world, but don't let them try that on you. It's a joke. They shall roar together like lions. They shall yell as lions well. In their heat, I will make their feasts, and I will make them drunken, that they may rejoice and sleep a perpetual sleep and not wake, saith Jehovah. That did not happen to them in the old Babylon. That never happened. I will bring them down like lambs to the slaughter, like lambs with the he-goats. How is Sheshach taken, and how is the praise of the whole earth surprised? How is Babel become an astonishment among the nations? The sea is come up upon Babylon. Do you think that happened, the old Babylon? The sea washed over the country? No historical account of that. It will happen in America because that's what's going to put the fires out. So then the animals, the beasts, and the birds, and the owls, and the mice, and all of them could go live there and live in the houses and the buildings and stuff like that, because the sea will put the fire out. After the people are all gone, I expect. With the multitude of the waves thereof. The waves wash over it. Her cities are a desolation. Cities. Babylon was one city. Cities. Can't be the old Babylon. It's America. A dry land and a wilderness, a land wherein is no man dwelleth, neither doth son of man pass thereby. That's the future for America. And I will punish Bel, that's the demonic, thing from the old Babylon, Bel in Babylon. And I will bring forth out of his mouth that which he has swallowed up, and the nations shall not flow together anymore unto him. How does that happen? How do they flow to America? They go to the UN in New York City on the East River, 49th Street, I think, something like that. Shall not flow together anymore unto him. Yea, the wall of Babylon shall fall. What wall does America have? It has over 2,000 miles of wall between Mexico and America, and Trump is currently building it like crazy, making it even bigger. My people, go you out of the midst of her, and deliver you every man his soul from the fierce anger of Jehovah, and lest your heart faint, and you fear for the rumor that shall be heard in the land. That rumor shall come 1 year, and after that in another year shall come a rumor, and violence in the land, ruler against ruler. This didn't happen in the old Babylon. You got ruler against ruler. How is this playing out? Well, states are going against Trump with laws, and the courts, the federal courts, the state courts are going against Trump with the laws. It's in play. Are there rumors of wars in America? Of course, been for years. Therefore, behold, the days come that I will do judgment upon the graven images of Babel, and her whole land shall be confounded, and all the slain shall fall in the midst of her. Then the heaven and the earth and all that is therein shall sing for Babylon, for the spoilers, the looters, the pillagers shall come unto her from the north, saith Jehovah. As Babylon hath caused the slain of Israel to fall. See, they were involved with October 7th. They let it happen. Netanyahu was visiting Biden about 3 weeks before it happened, and Biden didn't want him coming there for years. And then all of a sudden, Netanyahu come. Yeah. As Babylon hath caused the slain of Israel to fall, so at Babylon shall fall the slain of all the earth. That didn't happen in the past. You that have escaped the sword, go away, stand not still. Remember Jehovah afar off, and let Jerusalem come into your mind. There was no escaping the sword and run out of Babylon. The Jews were very safe there. They stayed there for weeks or months till Cyrus got it together and returned them back to Israel. We are confounded because we have heard reproach. Shame hath covered our faces, for strangers are come into the sanctuary of the Lord's house. See, this makes me think that Malachi 3, where the temple, which the next one comes down from heaven, you got to read Ezekiel 37, the last 3 verses. God said he puts it in the midst of Israel, which is Jerusalem, the middle of Israel. So there was no temple in Babylon for this to take place in. For strangers are come into the sanctuary of the Lord's house. Now, you could say this happened in the old Babylon. They did go in the temple there, and maybe it's a carryover punishment from that. You could also say that. But it says, we have heard reproaches, shame hath covered our faces. You could go either way with this, or you could go both. Wherefore, behold, the days come, saith Jehovah, that I will do judgment upon her graven images, and through her land the wounded shall groan. Though Babylon should mount up to heaven, and though she fortify the height of her strength, yet from me shall spoilers come unto her, saith Jehovah. A sound of a cry cometh from Babylon, and great destruction from the land of the Chaldeans, because Jehovah hath spoiled Babylon and destroyed out of her the great voice. When her waves do roar like great waters, a noise of their voice is uttered. You see, America's called the daughter of Babylon. If the original Babylon was called the daughter of Babylon, how the heck could it be the original Babylon? You see how the churches prey on you? It's completely illogical. How could Babylon be the daughter of Babylon? See, they prey on people that don't study their Bible and don't think, and they put witchcraft and sorcery and spells and enchantments on them, which work because the people are in evil fellowship when they go into their churches. Because the churches are bad trees that bring forth bad fruit. Because Jehovah hath spoiled Babylon and destroyed out of her the great voice, when her waves do roar like the great waters, the noise of their voice is uttered. See, there was no washing over of waves of the original Babylon. Because the spoiler has come upon her, even upon Babel, and her mighty men are taken. Every one of their bows is broken, for Jehovah Elohim, Jehovah El of recompenses, that's the year of recompenses reference, I would say, shall surely requite. And I will make drunk her princes, and her wise men, her captains, and her rulers, and her mighty men, and they shall sleep a perpetual sleep, and shall not wake, saith the King whose name is Jehovah of hosts. Well, that's likely going to happen in both of the Babylons. The old one probably happened, and the new one. I don't think they killed them in their sleep. I think they took the army prisoners and probably made them into slaves and stuff. But thus saith Jehovah of hosts, the broad walls of Babel. Now that can mean the long walls too, which Trump has over 2,000 miles of. The broad walls of Babel shall be utterly broken, and her high gates shall be burned with fire, and the people shall labor in vain. There's the fires again, which was not the case in the old Babylon. And the folk in the fire, again the fire, and they shall be weary. The word which Jeremiah the prophet commanded Sariah the son of Neriah, the son of Masela, when he went with Zedekiah, the king of Judah, unto Babylon in the 4th year of his reign, and this Seraiah was a quiet prince. So Jeremiah wrote in a book all the evil that should come upon Babylon, even all these words that are written against Babylon. And Jeremiah said to Seraiah, when thou comest to Babylon and shall see and shall read all these words, then shalt thou say, O Lord, hast thou spoken against this place to cut it off, that none shall remain in it, neither man nor beast, but that it shall be desolate forever. And it shall be when thou hast made an end of reading this book, that thou should bind a stone in it and cast it into the midst of the Euphrates. And thou shalt say, thus shall Babylon sink and shall not rise from the evil that I will bring upon her, and they shall be weary, thus saith. Thus far are the words of Jeremiah. Well, the throwing it in the water is significant of the waves washing on the modern Babylon, America, not the old Babylon. Just if you're interested, we quickly jump over to Isaiah 47. And this starts out reading like this: Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no more daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Now, this sounds to me like America's going bankrupt. Take the millstone. Now, Trump did put a 90-day stall or pause on the sanctions, except for China. I thought he was still doing it with Canada and Mexico, but I think I'm wrong. He's not. He's at 145% tariffs with China. He wants to bust China out, which causes wars when you try to bust out a big superpower. Take the millstone and grind meals. You could read this. It takes that. Let me check the live stream, and I'll have a few words for you about the country of India. Just checking the chat. I think I covered the private prisons. Oh, you mean America private prisons? That's not, I don't know. The prisons have a high recidivism rate. That means that people go back to prison. You know that Alcoholics Anonymous get like an 88% rate of people going back to drinking? That's because they talk about you got to have a higher power, but they don't name the higher power or follow the Bible or anything like that. So they're opening the doors for false gods in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's an evil work, 88% failure rate. The prisons are not 88%, but they're pretty darn high with people going back to prison. I don't have the most recent numbers, but I'm from Levi. I'm a descendant of Aaron, so I'm a Kohanim or a Cohen. Yeah, the buildings and the statues are all over the world. Read Jeremiah 30, verse 11. I will destroy all the nations I scattered the Israelites into. It's also in Jeremiah 46, verse 28. Yeah, they all go. Read it. Stop listening to your pastor. Pick up your Bible. Jeremiah 46, verse 28. Okay? And Jeremiah 30, verse 11. So you think because all the evil is all over the world, God's going to be tolerant to that? I don't. I never hear people teaching like what I teach. Please show me who they are. I'd love to meet them. I look all the time. I never see them. That should confirm that I may be wrong. Well, you could always say anybody's wrong, but you're arguing without the scriptures. Find scriptures that you think I'm teaching that are incorrect with and correct me with other scriptures, not just running your mouth. That's meaningless. Bring scriptures out that show I'm wrong. Then I could defend myself. Just sitting there, you're wrong. Anybody could say that. That doesn't mean you know your Bible. He sent them out 2 by 2. I'm not physically sent out to you. I'm in my house. Your pastor has a co-pastor. 2 of them come up on Sunday and preach at the podium. They don't. This sounds like a social studies class. So leave. You're free to leave. C is chaos, but it's also sea. When he washes the waves up, that's the water. Okay, it says washes the waves up. All right. So let me see if anybody mailed in any prayer requests. That'll take a couple of seconds. I think somebody did. Let me see. Someone's asking for prayer for the eyes. Prayer for the eyes for CM Charlie Mike and ES Echo Sierra. Prayer for healing of eyes for CM Charlie Mike and Echo Sierra ES. You could also throw me in that too. Pray for me, Moshe, for healing of the eyes. I'd appreciate that. My jaw thing where it was hurting in the tooth did settle down quite well. I don't know if I'm out of it forever. Please keep praying for my teeth, gums, and jaw to stop hurting and they be fine and stay fine. I'd appreciate those prayers. Thank you. Modi is a bad man in India. Okay, a lot of us don't know that. Netanyahu meets with him and treats him like he's a groovy dude, and he's anything but that. He's a horrible individual. Modi is a Hindu, and he wants to convert all the people in India to Hinduism. Modi, the wealthy people, i.e., the Satan bots, are getting wealthier and wealthier, and the poor get poorer and poorer. A lot of the people that live in India make good students and they got a good brain and they could assimilate academia and they go to work in high tech. So I know a guy that makes about $2,000 a month in high tech in India, which is an okay living in India because things are cheap. If he was in the States, he'd probably make $250,000 a year or 150,000 bare bones minimum a year. Okay. So they underpay. So he attracts high-tech industries to come there like China does with their taking advantage of their poor people. India does that. India has an industry where they strip merchant marine ships, cruise ships, container ships, tankers, anything. And they break them down to their parts, nuts, bolts, and sell these things to people that need to repair ships and need these pieces and stuff like that. So they have people stripping the ships. It could take 6 months or a year to break a ship down, and they pay them next to nothing, a few dollars a day, maybe. People in India are very, very poor. They do run a caste system to a great extent there. Modi does not allow people to have guns. Forget getting a gun in India. If you're tied into the powerful political party, Modi's political party, and you tell the people, like you have a factory that employs 6,300 people, yeah, you'll probably have enough connections and say, I'm worried, I want to have a gun, and they'll give you a letter to go buy a gun, and then you can carry the gun, but for 99.9% of people, they're never going to have a gun. They're never going to have a hunting rifle. They're never going to have a pistol. They're not going to have any guns. Knives they could carry, but they don't want them running around with machetes, stuff like that. You could use a machete in the field, but if you start packing a machete in the city, the police are probably going to do something to you. Maybe just take it away. I don't know. So the knife laws are not real heavy in India. So if you were going to carry like a 6 or an 8-inch blade, you could probably get away with that and really learn how to use it and carry 2 of them. You could be rather deadly. The robbers would, in some bad areas and bad neighborhoods, they might have an illegal gun they got that came smuggled in from Pakistan and pull it on somebody and rob them. But if the cops catch them, and there's a lot of cameras, these webcams and stuff like that, anti-crime cameras all over India to stop people from being burglars and thieves and stuff. So if they were seen, on the camera, or the cops saw them, they'd probably kill them or beat the daylights out of them, throw them in jail, maybe throw them off a cliff or something like that. The police are corrupt, and they do what they want. Okay, and Modi does what he wants, and he can wipe out the Muslims. Remember, there's no guns there to speak of. He can make war on the Muslims, and the Hindus will fight the Muslims, and the Hindus can be very aggressive. And one of the things the Hindus can't stand, and Modi is a Hindu, he's really a Satan bot, but he calls himself a Hindu, is the Christians. And they persecute the Christians. They have not taken to burning their houses, throwing them out of their houses, taking their cars, not like Syria. But Modi would do it if he had his way. He does not like the Christian churches. They are allowed to function over there. Now, the Christian churches are, now remember, there's, 1.5 billion people in India or something like that, a huge amount of people. The false teachers, the Satanist teachers, pop up in India all the time, and they teach a lot is the prosperity, name it and claim it, Kenneth Copeland, type teachings, right? I'm God's representative. You give to me and God will pay you back and you'll get 100 times more. So how do you get rich? You give money to me. So these people are so big, they run not 1 or 2 sessions on Sunday. They run 6. Okay? And they'll have 5 or 10,000 people come to each session because there's that many people in India. It's that big. And then the people give like $1, right? Some probably give $5 or $10. Some probably give 25 cents. Some give $1. They're poor. But look how many people you get every Sunday. It adds up like big time. They're millionaires, these false teachers. In Africa, it's rather similar too. They do similar things in Africa. Africa, can you buy a gun? Most of the countries in Africa, I don't think so. Again, in any country, if you're a millionaire and you're plugged in with the politicians and you're giving money to them and you go to parties with them and you say, oh, I'm worried, I got jewelry and I need a gun, they'll give it to you. They'll give it to you. So people don't defend their house with the gun because they don't have a gun. So the burglars are there, but they're really just going to try to victimize somebody that's not home and they could get in, and they got to be careful with cameras. They could have a lot of problems, and the police would be very mean to them. The police don't want rapes and muggings and armed robberies and burglaries of houses and robbing businesses and carjacking and stealing things from people. They don't want that. It's a pain in the neck for them, so they're pretty hard on it. They don't want it. So the crime in a lot of areas in India is quite low. You could walk out late at night by yourself and probably nothing would happen, which is you could do in Israel. In my area of Israel, you can do it. I mean, any hour. My wife or women could walk any hour of the day or night by themselves here. Not going to have any problem. Modi is trouble on the hook, though. He's trouble waiting to come. Okay? And I don't know how he's dealing with Trump, but Trump is a smart businessman and he'd be cautious with Modi. Modi just looks out for what's good for Israel. He'll stab anybody in the back. He doesn't care. And the potential for him to rise up against the Muslims is high. He's not in the mood to do it right now. Why would he? I mean, there's so many violent Muslim terrorist groups running around the world, they could open up on them. But the Muslims in India are greatly outnumbered by the Hindus, as are the Christians. And nobody's going to rise up if he persecutes the Christians, right? So that could happen with him. I don't know. But Modi, you got to keep your eyes on. He's a piece of garbage. Big time, you know. It's a big time one. So I don't know how Modi's going to fit into the coming wars, but expect trouble from Modi no matter what he does with India. He's a bad blood with that guy. Bad. All you're going to get from him is bad. Well, what about for the Hindus? Well, the Hindus are worshiping false gods, so their eternity is bad, right? So, I mean, anything you're going to get from Modi is bad. Modi is straight up bad tree, bad fruit. There's nothing good with that piece of garbage, okay? Like the head of Iran or something like that. You know, there's many that are the same, but he's pretty big and pretty powerful, and India has quite a military with lots of jets, aircraft carriers, all sorts of stuff. It's a powerful operation. And he keeps the poor people poor and the rich people rich, and they have kind of a caste system. It's a weird thing. And, you know, we don't hear a lot about India, but rest assured it's a concern what this idiot is brewing up there, if anything. Yet you cannot provide the evidence yourself. Wake up call. What are you talking about? I give you the scriptures. I'm always reading the scriptures. If you have an issue with me, post the scriptures. No, you don't do that. You just run your mouth. Let's see you talk how false I am and how bad I am using the scriptures, so it's meaningless. Anybody could say anything about anybody. It's pointless. It's of zero value. Your comment is of zero value. Where are the scriptures to discredit me? Where are they? Nobody. Oh, okay. Romans 16, 17 to 18. Let's see what it says. Romans 16. I don't know what point he's trying to make other than kick against me. Let's have some tossed salad for this person, please. Romans 16, 16 and 17. Salute one another with a holy kiss. The churches of Christ salute thee. Now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause divisions and offenses contrary to the doctrine which you have learned, and avoid them. Well, the first question is, does this guy know a division is a denomination? I don't know. I don't see any sign of it the way he was using this scripture. Where is this guy's post again? Division is a denomination, and in Galatians 5:19-21, in the King James, it uses the word seditions, which is a division. And it says, people that do such things shall not enter the kingdom of God. So what Galatians 5:19-21 says, those that are participating in denomination churches aren't going to enter the kingdom of God. Read it yourself, Galatians 5:19-21. Look the word seditions up in a Webster's dictionary online, and it means divisions. And that's exactly what a denomination is. And then it also has variants. And they have varying doctrinal statements to create a house divided unto itself, like pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib, pray in tongues, don't pray in tongues, that type of thing. Now he says 2 Timothy 4:3-4. 2 Timothy 4:3-4. 2 Timothy 4:3-4. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lusts shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth and shall be turned into fables. Well, I read the scriptures and I interpret them. So that's a pretty good stretch to call that on me, because I'm always reading scriptures. But you seem to want to do that. The reason that there's 12 gates is because there's 12 tribes of Israel. And you need to read Ezekiel 47, where the people that come to Israel in the next great Exodus are incorporated into the tribe that they came over here with, become members of that tribe, then they would enter New Jerusalem when the time comes through the gate of the tribe they were joined into. I don't know, this guy saying I can't provide the evidence myself. I think I did. So I wouldn't pay much attention to people. What I mean when I tell them use the scriptures is isolate a single scripture that you say I'm misinterpreting, and then put another scripture up, or more than one scripture, to show me wrong. That's what I'm doing about these people that tell you that the old Babylon is what you're reading about as the daughter of Babylon. On the surface, it's idiotic. How could the daughter of Babylon be the original Babylon? But a lot of people that go to the churches are under witchcraft and sorcery, and they don't think clearly, so they fall for it. So that's what I did. I debunked it by spelling it out, using a lot of scriptures, interpreting them, and showing you why it can't be. So where are these people that are kicking against me with their scriptures, showing me that I'm in error? They're not there, because Satan bots don't know how to use the Bible. They just make believe they do. They can't. And if somebody had the Holy Spirit, I believe they would understand what I'm saying and they wouldn't kick against it. Okay? These people don't even understand what it is to kick against it. They don't know what it is to use scriptures step by step to make your point, because the people they listen to, pastors and stuff, don't use it, the scriptures, that way. So enough on that. I hope you got something out of it. I'm Moshe. Please keep praying for my teeth and gums and jaw to stay healed and be healed. And Pray for me and my wife, Rivka. Pray for our peace, safety, protection, joy, and healing of our bodies. And pray for our finances, and pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole. They're all rescues. Pray for Beulah to not jump out of the yard anymore. I think I fixed it. She can't jump again, but pray she doesn't get out anymore. Pray for the peace of Yerushalayim. Pray for better videos. And I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I hope you got something out of this. And I'm out. Thank you.